I'm Al Gagliardi, and serial number in the Army was 3912-4255. I first served in Kiska, Alaska as part of the 10th Mountain Division, and I was a member of the K Company 87th Mountain Infantry. I grew up in Gilroy, California, and graduated from Gilroy High School in 1942 at 18 years old, and shortly thereafter I was drafted in the Army in February of 43. Might be hard for some people to believe, but the training was the worst part of my Army career. Drill sergeants were tough, you were under constant pressure, and the conditions were hard. I was trained at Camp Roberts in San Miguel, California, and later was assigned to a unit that went first to Kiska, and then later to the Pacific Islands, and eventually at Iwo Jima, and then Okinawa. At which time I was a member of the 147th Infantry. I was a heavy machine gunner in that unit. I hated, why is he saying this? I hated this, serving in training in Camp Roberts because it was so close to my home. Many of my friends had a chance to go to other parts of the country, and I was stuck here. In training, they were constantly on us, up one side and down the other, and it was their way of making us a soldier. They might say it was kind of brainwashing to get us used to killing enemy soldiers. When I first arrived in Kiska, something I remembered my sergeant telling me in training was that you shall never volunteer for anything. The sergeant said, if I want to volunteer, I'll pick one. The day we landed in Kiska, our platoon sergeant needed 2 volunteers to protect the left flank, so he called George and I, and we moved out just as we were trained to do, with no question at all. The next morning, the unit was out of water, and once again, the sergeant was confronted with a couple more volunteers. George and I thought we were safe, but he called out George and I, and the rest of the fellows thought that was great, that we should go. It was kind of dangerous because we had to go down this mountain, which was supposed to be territory. They thought there was enemy down there too. So we had a password which we gave to them, and after much ado we finally were able to get back into the lines. After Kiska, I went to South Pacific, and then we moved up to Iwo Jima with the 147th Infantry. And we were attached to the 5th Marine Division, and mainly we were there to do some of the mopping up, although we did encounter the enemy that was a little stronger than we thought. I had gone to the 147th as a replacement since I left the Mountain Division. They did that by decimation. They went through the roster, and every 10th man was removed from the unit and sent out as a replacement, and I was one of those. Cleaning up or mopping up was somewhat of a dangerous situation. You had to be constantly on guard with the enemy and mines and booby traps and all this other thing. So it was a rather difficult job, but we got used to doing it, and we went every other day. And after Iwo Jima, then I went to Okinawa. And one of the bad things I encountered in Okinawa was the typhoon that was forecast to hit the island. We were in the old schoolhouse that they had let us use, and we were told the schoolhouse would not stand up to the over 140, 150 mile an hour wind that was expected in the typhoon. So we moved out and away from the schoolhouse and dug into the ground. I dug a hole large enough for me to lay in, deep enough for the wind to pass over me. And like the forecast said, the typhoon came and it really blew. Everything was, that wasn't secure, blew away. I felt to me like a train running over me and made so much noise, but I went to sleep. And in the morning when the sergeant was waking us up, we got up and was amazed our schoolhouse was still there. So we kind of felt that we could have stayed in the schoolhouse, but apparently they thought it was too dangerous. After Okinawa, I returned to the United States in December of 1945, and we hit Seattle, and there was no transportation, and so we had to get back on the ship and go to San Francisco. And I was discharged there at one of the Camp Beale in San Francisco. And finally I was given a bus ticket, a little bit of money, and eventually ended home where I left. After the war, like everybody else,
Mr. Gagliardi received the medals for good conduct and the Bronze Star. Al Gagliardi still lives in Gilroy to this day and has recently had his 84th birthday. He lives happily with his wife Betty and is enjoying every minute of his life fully.
Get on, get on, get on the road to victory. Get off, get off, get off the rusty dusty and get on, get on, get on the road to victory. Buy another bond today. Get in, get in, get in your weekly envelope. Get out.